Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Looking for ways to keep the kids entertained while traveling? Netflix Games lets them jump into fun, creative adventures at no extra cost. Everything's unlocked with your Netflix membership. From Paw Patrol Academy and Lego Duplo World to Barbie color creations and World of Peppa Pig, there's something for every little explorer. And you don't need Wi-Fi. Kids can play anytime, anywhere. Visit netflixfamily.com/travel tips for all your kids' holiday entertainment.
This is the Cats Roundtable with John Catsimatidis.
Everywhere around the world, they come to America. Every time that flag's unfurled, they come into America.
Good morning, New York. This is the Cats Roundtable. John Catsimatidis here, Sunday morning. Another great show for you today. Steve Cates, what's going on out there in outer space and in the skies? Governor David Paterson, John Terrett about the markets, Rabbi Potashnik, and what is the meaning of Hanukkah? Bonnie Brady, windmills, we may be in trouble again. Paul Zuber, which way are we going? Senator George Borrello, Special Agent Frank Tarantino, and let's start off with Michael Stoller on the Real Estate Report.
Good morning. This is Mike Stoller for the Stoller Real Estate Report. What's happening in the alternative area of financing? You always hear about banks, insurance companies, other alternatives. So today I have the principal and the head of originations for Travian Capital, Charlie Zabriskie. Thanks for being here.
Thanks, Michael, for having me. Great to see you.
So tell me and my audience what Travian Capital is.
Sure. So Travian Capital is a senior secured first mortgage bridge lender on commercial real estate. We're based here in New York City, but we lend all over the United States in primary, secondary, and tertiary markets. And we particularly focused in the middle market and lower middle market size range in terms of loan amount. So that's about $5 million to $50 million in loan sizes. And borrowers come to us for, we like to say, 6 or 7 main reasons. Time-sensitive deals. We can close a deal very quickly in 2 or 3 weeks or quicker, whereas conventional banks typically take 30, 60, 90 days, depending on the situation. Transitional real estate, so value add, with a particular focus in multifamily. I'll come back to the types of deals that we lend on and asset classes that we lend on. But time-sensitive deals, value add, so acquisition, renovation, lease up at new rents, and then refinance us out within a couple of years. Borrowers come to us for any kind of transitional borrower-related issue, so partner buyouts, partnership disputes, discounted payoff opportunities where they have the opportunity to pay back their existing lender at some discount to the current loan amount, and other stories and special situations with regards to the borrower. We lend on mid-construction deals as well, so we'll come in the middle of a build and pay off the existing construction loan and bridge through completion and lease up and stabilization, specifically on the multifamily asset class. And those deals can be in a situation where they need to be refinanced for any number of reasons, delays, construction overruns, on a delayed scenario where the existing construction loan is maturing, but the borrowers still have another 10, 20, 30% of hard costs remaining. They need to get the building finished and then leased up and stabilized. We'll come in and help them finish that exercise. Senior stretch scenarios.
What do you mean by senior stretch?
Senior stretch. So we can go higher in the capital stack from a loan to cost standpoint than a bank, for example, or an insurance company it might do on the way into a deal. So, if someone's acquiring, back to the value add situation, someone's acquiring a multifamily building in a community in anywhere USA, and it might be 90, 95% occupied and cash flowing, but the rents are below market, there's an opportunity to put some dollars back into the property to renovate it and clean it up. We see scenarios all over the country where 1970s, 80s vintage workforce housing might not have been touched in 20, 30 years. So there's an opportunity to clean those properties up, cure deferred maintenance, make the units nicely renovated and boost those rents, and then obviously benefit from the higher NOI at the end of the business plan. And so we can lend based on that future cash flow, right? Looking at comparable rents in the market of similarly renovated units and see how those are performing. We can underwrite those forward cash flows and lend based off of that stabilized value, so long as we're inside of conventional debt capacity once the property is leased up and stabilized post-renovation. So we might lend 75-80% loan to cost on the total project cost, being purchase price plus renovation budget, whereas a bank is going to look at and other conventional lenders are going to look at the current in-place cash flows at time of purchase and lend based on those in-place cash flows at likely a much lower attachment point.
There were interesting comments that you made in an article. Let's talk about them.
Sure.
Rent affordability is at the top of the mind.
Yeah. So, look, there's news abound about rent affordability both here in New York as well as throughout the United States, and renters' ability to pay their rent. We've been in a prolonged cycle here of rents increasing throughout the country, on Class A all the way down to Class C workforce apartment communities, and what we're seeing in real time is in certain markets and in many markets, in fact, where a lot of renovation has occurred on these workforce housing communities. Borrowers are starting to discover the upper limits of rent increases and what renters in those communities can actually afford. So there is a hyper focus on rent to income metrics and understanding how deep your pool is of renters who can qualify for these elevated rents post renovation. So, a Birmingham, Alabama market as an example, there's a huge amount of these renovated properties that are on the market now in lease up, and all of them are trying to achieve top of the market rents for these renovated units, and they've hit the threshold where you're now starting to see actual rent loss on renewals, or in addition to an increasing number of months of concessions, there's actual rent reduction as well.
I'm happy that you joined me today on an interesting topic that not too many people realize, and thanks for being here.
Appreciate you having me. Great to see you.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Bonnie Brady, who's been working on the wind farms in Long Island and New Jersey. And Bonnie Brady, tell us what the heck happened. This seems to be a Massachusetts federal judge. What did the federal judge do again? And we're talking about the windmills mostly, right?
Oh, absolutely. Hey, John, thank you so much for having me. Yes, a federal lawsuit that 17 states, including the great ocean state of Colorado and a couple of others, but New York was the lead state. This was done by Letitia James, sued in the federal court of Massachusetts in order to fight against President Trump's presidential memorandum against offshore wind. And last week, Judge Patty Saris, who is a district court judge in Massachusetts, ruled in the state's favor, saying that the memorandum was, in legal terms, arbitrary and capricious because she felt it was not considering the facts or law. And what that means for those of us that work on the ocean providing food for America and the environment of the ocean itself, anyone that has a project that had been approved can go forward. And what that means for the ratepayers, not just those of us that are homeowners and paying bills out of an apartment, but any manufacturer, we're going to take it in the wallet to the extent of 4 to 6 times what costs are now. And I can explain that. The judge basically ruled saying that, oh no, the investments on wind projects, these states have suffered harm, that the project's delay reduced tax revenue for the states, and that in the example that was raised about Atlantic Shores, which was a Jersey project, oh no, New Jersey was going to get $2 billion in economic benefits, which is ludicrous. That's based on the President Biden's IRA money, where the gold bars were dumping off of the Titanic. That's how that money was raised, not through anything resembling savings as a result of these projects.
It's ruining the coast of Long Island. It's affecting the population of the whales. Tell us what else it's affecting, and tell people how much it's going to cost them in additional value in electricity.
I mean, as far as in the environment, everything with the exception, they have a project in Empire Wind that's still been going forward, pile driving, jet plowing the ocean floor, laying it with thousands of miles of high volt cables. The case off of Long Island, off of Montauk, Sunrise Wind, that one includes something called an high voltage DC converter station with an open loop. They're using the ocean water to cool this thing by sucking up almost 8 million gallons of seawater daily, adding bleach through electrolysis, and then releasing it as 90-degree effluent into the water column. A similar type of cooling system has been disallowed by New York State on land for new builds. But in the ocean, hey, no one's going to scream. The fish can't scream, can they? Now, that doesn't include, obviously, all of the ability for commercial fishing throughout the Atlantic seaboard to land fresh seafood for Americans, so they don't have to worry about eating farmed garbage that's filled with antibiotics and reduces tons of waste sludge into the ocean, or having imports where God knows where it's coming from, Russia, China. They don't have any regulations there. They don't care about sustainability. You've got a lot of imports where they don't have any regs. They don't have any rules. Only 10% of the imported fish that comes into this country is even checked by the FDA. And none of these countries outside of the U.S. have the same fisheries regulations to keep the stocks healthy, to keep the marine mammals healthy, and to make sure that the American public is getting a healthy product. And I guarantee you...
And what I was told by my doctor, farm-raised salmon, if you eat it, you're in deep crap.
I mean, that's the whole point, this pink sludge. They closed farms on the West Coast because of the amount of sludge coming out of these animals aren't supposed to be penned. The whole process of having what Secretary Kennedy and the administration have talked about, make America healthy again, involves eating wild-caught, sustainable seafood from the U.S. And that's going to go bye-bye if they keep pushing on offshore wind. And the billions of dollars that industry provides to our coastal communities from Maine all the way down to Florida isn't something to laugh at, but yet somehow this judge felt that the promise of future energy jobs meant more than the right now jobs that exist for hardworking Americans.
The other thing that's a quasi-fraud, I understand these windmills that's owned majority by the government of Norway, which is not supposed to be, or something like that. Right. I mean, maybe you could tell us more, but they start to break apart at the end of 5 or 10 years, and the taxpayer is still paying.
Yeah, well, Equinor, that's building the Empire Wind project, is 67% owned by the Kingdom of Norway. So the King of Norway owns Empire, and yet here we are suing them in court, and they're trying to avoid saying that, oh, no, we represent Norway, so we can't be served in any of our U.S. offices because you have to go through the Hague Convention. And why did they do that? Because they knew there'd be a longer delay. These folks are jumping through whatever hoop. It's ridiculous. And the reality is the amount of money that they're going to cost is 4 to 6 times more. Because when you have offshore wind, they've got the agreements between the states, the purchase power agreements, it's $155 a megawatt hour compared to, I believe it's about 36 cents per megawatt hour. $36 per megawatt hour for natural gas, normal strike price on the grid when you're buying power. So when these folks are providing that power, they're getting paid. They're getting paid at like 5 times the amount. Plus, that doesn't even include the transmission cables zigzagging across the ocean floor and piling in through neighborhoods, going in front of schools, in front of residential housing, all of it. They're going to tear up everything in order to make money for whom? The Kingdom of Denmark. And just also manufacturers, forget about just homeowners that are going to get hosed. Manufacturers, they had a situation a couple of years back, right before the Ukraine war, where suddenly the wind didn't blow. And the price that they had to pay for energy got to the point where several of the companies providing energy had to close because there was a cap. And all the manufacturers, their bills went from, for example, $3,000 a month to $30,000 a month.
And Bonnie Brady, give us your Facebook site if people want to keep informed.
Well, they can go to my regular site on Bonnie Brady on Facebook. Also, I'm a board member of ProtectOurCoastNewJersey.com. They can go there and learn about our fights in the courts for Empire Wind specifically.
Bonnie Brady, thank you for bringing us up to date.
Thank you very much for having me. Have a great rest of your week. Bye.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.
Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Pain Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
Introducing Meta Ray-Ban Display, the world's most advanced AI glasses. With a full color display built into the lens of the glasses, it's there when you need it and gone when you don't. Send and receive messages, translate or caption live conversations, collaborate with Meta AI, and more. Be one of the first to try Meta Ray-Ban Display. Visit meta.com/Meta Ray-Ban Display to book a demo and find your pair.
Okay, only 10 more presents to wrap. You're almost at the finish line. But first... there, the last one. Enjoy a Coca-Cola for a pause that refreshes.
This episode is brought to you by McAfee.
I got a message that our flight was canceled. But they can put us on another flight, and we just need to confirm our credit card info.
Wait, I got a security alert from McAfee. It flagged that message as a scam.
McAfee's scam detector automatically spots and alerts you to suspicious texts, emails, and deepfake videos. Learn more at McAfee.com/online protection.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. Well, like every Sunday morning, we have a common sense Democrat, Governor David Paterson. And Governor, there's so many things happening in the world, the state, the city. Where do you want to start off this morning, Sunday morning?
I want to talk about Venezuela and the political ramifications of it. You and Rita played on the 5 o'clock show, Katz and Cosby, I guess it was last week or the week before, a tape from Joe Biden made in 1989 where he's challenging that President Reagan had not done enough.
I think at that time, 1989, it was
now
President
George W. Bush.
H.W. Bush.
H.W. Bush. I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Was not doing enough about drug trafficking. That, in fact, the drug trade had increased when the senior Bush came into office. And what's so interesting about that is he said, we know where the drugs are coming from. The same way a doctor attacks a disease, you hit the disease from its core. We should be going into these places and going into the homes of the people who are poisoning the young people in our country. Now,
and me and you have always been supporters of that.
Right. And if you took that man from 1989, transposed him to 2025, he would be maybe the most popular figure in politics other than, or maybe even including President Trump. But somehow between then and now, we in the Democratic Party don't seem to have the intestinal fortitude to fight this problem. This is not a complicated issue. The bombing the boats, well, if the boats are bringing drugs, it's the same thing as if the boats are bringing warfare, because the drugs kill people just as much as military weapons do.
I agree. And 30 years ago, when President Biden made that statement, and we could play that statement over again. Should we play that statement over again?
Let's play it over again.
The trouble is that the president's proposals are not big enough to deal with the problem. We think we should do more to stem the flow of drugs across our borders, and we think we should go one step further. Let's go after the drug lords where they live, with an international strike force. There must be no safe haven for these narco-terrorists, and they must know it. We have to lock up the dealers for a long, long time, and we have to attack the source from which the drugs come. And we have to do that not a piece at a time, but all at once. And we have to do it now. And there's not any reason why we can't do that. We have the power, we have the money, and we have the knowledge.
Well, that was President Biden, 1989. And President Clinton, no, not President Biden at that time. I think he was Senator Biden at that time.
Yes, he was senator.
And then President Clinton, I think, felt the same way. So where is the Democratic Party today? They're attacking this. A lot of U.S. senators, Democratic senators, attacking our current president, President Trump, for knocking out the drug boats coming in from Venezuela, for attacking the Mexicans that are transferring Chinese drugs to the United States and killing 100,000 Americans.
And I can appreciate that not everybody on the boats were killed and they were trying to rescue themselves, but there was also information that there were other boats near the boat that was attacked that were going to come over and pick up the supplies. So that wouldn't have
in other words, save $25 million worth of drugs.
Exactly, at the cost of
American lives.
Exactly. And John, that's it. That's my case for Sunday morning. It's been great to talk to you. We'll be back and hit on something next week.
Well, Governor David Paterson, thank you for your common sense. And we love America, and we all love America. And I'm still concerned that the Democratic Socialist Party is trying to take over the Democratic Party.
So am I.
Thank you, and we'll talk again next week.
The Cats Roundtable.
President Trump has declared war on drugs. Well, we hope we make America drug-free. With us today is Frank Tarantino. Got a new promotion. He is the Associate Chief of Operations for the whole Northeast region. Well, Frank Tarantino, congratulations on your promotion. Tell us, President Trump's war on drugs, how is it affecting the Northeast? What have you seen?
Well, thank you, John. It is a pleasure to be with you today and to have the opportunity to explain to the American public the amazing work that we're doing in the DEA, but also with our partners across the federal, state, and local law enforcement entities that we work with every day. You know, our president has the authority and the will to use all means necessary to protect the American people and the homeland. And what we have seen is a significant decrease in the cocaine that is being smuggled through the waterways that connect the Western Hemisphere and the United States of America. You know, there was a period of time between February and September where we seized nearly 10,000 kilograms of cocaine that was destined for the Northeast, specifically New York, and we were successful in interdicting that in the Gulf of Mexico. But since then, we haven't really had any big seizures in the Gulf related to that smuggling technique. So we've seen a change in the way that they're smuggling drugs into the United States. They're changing their patterns. They're changing their methodology. The price of cocaine has increased in the region. So we're seeing an effect in the approach, in the manner in which we're targeting the cartels right now.
Understood. So you see, the prices go up when there's less product around, I guess. So President Trump's war on drugs is helping. Is there much stuff coming in from Canada?
John, we're very focused on the northern border as well. We've had great coordination, great conversations, and great partnerships with our partners in the north, more specifically with the CBSA and also the Royal Canadian Mountain Police. And we've had, yes.
Do they still have horses?
I believe they do.
Yes, okay.
They do. Yeah. John, we've launched a great initiative across the United States called Fentanyl Free America, and it's a national enforcement and public awareness campaign really designed to protect the United States from the one thing that's causing the most harm, that's synthetic opioids, and also to disrupt, the fentanyl supply chain and reduce its availability, really just to save American lives. And, our focus is clear. We're targeting the cartels. We're cutting off the trafficking routes. We're following the money, and we're bringing justice to the communities in which are the most affected and deserve that level of attention and support. And that's what we saw play out in Washington Square Park. It's what we've seen playing out across the New York City region. And, of course, we're working across the entire Northeast to ensure that happens in a fair and equitable way. And, we're really driving, John, towards a future where families feel safe again, where our streets don't belong to gangs or cartels, but they actually belong to kids and families. And that's our focus. It's a future where fentanyl no longer takes American lives. And so that's really what we're focused on. So we had a huge seizure, John, last week, 132 kilograms of methamphetamine smuggled into the United States in a very intricate, unique way in the wooden pallets of crates with papayas that were coming into the United States. So 132 kilograms of methamphetamine, largest seizure of meth in recent history here in New York, about nearly 300 pounds of meth. Very, very dangerous, very highly addicting drug, which is also often mixed with fentanyl. So this is why it's a really important operation. But this is the work that the Americans deserve, and this is the great work that the DEA and, again, our law enforcement partners are doing across the Northeast region, but across the country.
Well, Frank Tarantino, congratulations again on the promotion of Assistant Chief of Operations. Tell us again, it's Assistant Chief of Operations for the whole Northeast region.
Yes, John. It's the Associate Chief of Operations for the Northeast region, which encompasses essentially Maine down to Virginia. It incorporates 6 different divisions and a lot of really amazing men and women of the DEA that are committed to saving lives.
Well, thank you for that, for the great job you're doing. And I'm sure President Trump and his vision, my vision, and your vision, a drug-free America, I hope we get there someday.
Yes, me too, John. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Appreciate you sharing our message.
You take care. Thank you for listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back right after this break.
This podcast is brought to you by Carvana. Carvana lets you buy your next car on your terms. Explore a massive inventory online, filter for what matters, and find your perfect match. Then choose delivery to your home or pick it up at one of Carvana's iconic car vending machines. Every car also comes with a 7-day money-back guarantee, so you can make sure it's the right fit. Buy your car on Carvana. Delivery or pickup fees may apply. Limitations and exclusions may apply. See our 7-day return policy at Carvana.com.
Carvana. This is Charlie. He's my part rescue dog, part whirlwind. Half of his breakfast always ends up on the floor. And he leaves fur everywhere. That's why I grabbed the Bissell Power Clean Fur Finder. It's cordless, powerful, and actually finds fur you don't even see. If you've got a pet like Charlie, you've got fur everywhere. The Power Clean Fur Finder gets that. Discover how Power Clean Fur Finder makes pet cleanups effortless at Bissell.com.
Everyone wants the Emirates NBA Cup.
And things are heating up.
30 teams started. Bang! But only 8 have advanced to the single elimination knockout rounds. To survive, they'll have to be hungry, relentless, ruthless.
Are you kidding me?
They all want the cup, but only one team can claim it. Who will capture the cup? Emirates NBA Cup semifinals, Saturday on Prime.
Adobe Acrobat Studio, so brand new. Show me all the things PDFs can do. Do your work with ease and speed. PDF Spaces is all you need. Do hours of research in an instant with key insights from an AI assistant. Pick a template with a click. Now your prezzo looks super slick. Close that deal? Yeah, you won. Do that, doing that, did that, done. Now you can do that with Acrobat. Now you can do that with the all-new Acrobat. It's time to do your best work with the all-new Adobe Acrobat Studio.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Senator George Borrello from Chautauqua County in Western New York. And I think you told me you're concerned about crime.
So Governor Hochul recently said that gun crime is down in New York State. But what she does is she cherry picks certain data and she's comparing 2024 to 2021. But the reality is the only comparison needs to be pre-bail reform and post-bail reform. Now, bail reform and the other failed criminal justice reforms under one-party Democrat rule started in 2019. So if you compared pre-bail reform to 2024 data, all major crimes are up 26%, John, 26%, including gun crime. So to compare 2021 to 2024 is just her trying to say, don't believe your lying eyes, folks. Survey after survey shows that most New Yorkers fear that they'll be a victim of crime. And look at what we see on our streets, in the subways in New York City, and in every small community across New York State, crime is up. And the governor knows that this is going to have a bad impact on her next year.
I mean, it's an election year next year, and I think the number one item that we all talk about is quality of life. And taxes, that's way out of control, too.
Yeah, and by the way, affordability is the big topic, right, John? And right now we're hearing that, car insurance. New York State has the most expensive car insurance in the nation. Well, guess what? Car theft is up 150% since bail reform. So you want to know why your car insurance is going up? It's because there's no consequences for people that steal cars. Here's the problem with Democrats. They think that whether it's car theft, whether it's shoplifting, whether it's smash and grabs or burglary, oh, don't worry, you have insurance. That's a victimless crime in their mind. But that's the problem. It's costly. Every type of insurance, your home insurance, your car insurance, is up because of Democrats' pro-criminal policies. And if you want to talk about affordability, we need to talk about fixing crime.
Well, what we're all concerned about is an exodus of businesses as well as consumers and people that live here a long time. Have you seen any of that, or what are the statistics on that?
New York State leads the nation in out-migration. More people leave New York State for other places than any other state in the nation. And by the way, our former governor, Andrew Cuomo, said, it's because of the weather. Well, guess what? We lose most of our population, not to Florida, but to New Jersey, which I don't think has much different weather than we have, right? But we also lose businesses to states like Texas and Florida and other places where there are lower taxes and less regulation. This is a big problem, particularly in Western New York and upstate New York in general. But even in New York City, John, there are neighborhoods, densely populated neighborhoods, that because of crimes like shoplifting, don't have pharmacies anymore. I mean, you can walk around neighborhoods in boroughs like Queens and the Bronx where you can't find a grocery store or a pharmacy. How could a city?
Well, a lot of the grocery stores, a lot of the supermarkets, a lot of the drugstores have closed up because people shoplift. Nobody goes to jail.
No consequences.
There's no consequences.
Exactly. And John, we're seeing the impact of that without a doubt. Well, here's the thing. Under bail reform and the other criminal justice reforms, 90% of crimes are no longer bail eligible. 90%. Basically, Democrats think the only time a crime is worthy of punishment is if somebody dies. And even then, that's questionable, as we've seen our radical far-left parole board release cop killer after cop killer, murderer after murderer back onto our streets prematurely. So this is the real problem. The root of all evil is Democrats' soft on crime policies and their twisted version of social justice that has allowed criminal after criminal to walk our streets and emboldened by their soft on crime policies. It has to stop. You want to talk about affordability, you want to talk about quality of life, you want to talk about the mass exodus of people from New York State. It's all based on the fact that people don't feel that New York State is safe or affordable. And that has to change. We need a change in leadership in Albany.
Senator George Borrello, Chautauqua County, thank you so much for your update. And let's talk again real soon.
Will do. Thanks so much, John.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is Paul Zuber. He's the Senior Vice President of the New York State Business Council, and you're representing over 3,000 businesses. Well, Paul Zuber, give us the pulse.
Well, John, we're at an interesting time right now, right? We're about to hit the holidays, but as soon as we get through the new year, we're going to be off and running in New York State. We're going to have the governor is going to introduce her budget. We're going to have the budget negotiations. We're going to go through the legislative session. And I think the big issue for businesses and your listeners is, what does the New York State government do about affordability? I was recently with a legislator who talked to me about, we were in our conference and they showed us all these poll numbers, and affordability still is the number one issue. We have to deal with affordability. My response back to them is, let's deal with it, because I'll give you a perfect example, John, that according to the U.S. Chamber, because of our wacky laws in terms of lawsuits and the ability to kind of just basically sue everybody, that's costing each household in New York State $7,000 a year, because we have laws on our books that are just insane. The problem is it drives up the costs on consumers. So if you were to go on the internet right now, you can learn how to stage an auto accident. So you can recover insurance and you can get a lawsuit started. And everybody wonders why insurance rates are so high in New York State. And nobody wants to do anything about it in the state legislature. You have this other crazy law called the scaffold law. So if you're on a construction site and you fall, even though there's like federal OSHA requirements and there's safety requirements, if you fall, even if it's your fault, it's absolute liability against the contractor. So there was a famous case where a guy crawled into an air vent to take a nap. They were building a big, high rise, and he got disoriented and he fell out the other end. The contractor was held 100% liable. So now insurance companies don't want to insure these big, huge sites. They charge enormous insurance rates, and now we wonder why our affordable housing units, it's impossible to build affordable housing, or it's impossible to build new buildings when all these increased costs are coming on consumers. So I think what we're looking at from the business community is, what does the legislature do about affordability? You have all the energy stuff, right? We've all talked about it. I've talked about it ad nauseum with you about how energy is eating away at consumers. You in New York City have this all-electric buildings law where all these...
I mean, that is hurting us because of what's going on with wind energy and the prices where the price of electricity is going to go to. It's going to destroy things.
And look, you have a mayor-elect who's talking about affordability and he wants to freeze rent. But how are you going to freeze rent when a landlord is now going to, and it's not even just about co-ops. A landlord is going to have to retrofit his building. He's going to have to take a loan out. It's going to cost him, probably, if it's one of the older buildings, probably going to cost him $1 million. Well, who do we think is going to pay that cost? The landlord's not going to eat the cost. He's going to raise the rent, right? So you have this law on the books that everybody wants to sing Kumbaya and say, oh, great, we're going to help the environment. But at the same time, you're costing consumers a ton of money in, quite honestly, a state where even before we did this law, we were actually one of the better states in terms of our environmental compliance. So when are we going to really deal with affordability? And I think that's going to be the big question going into 2026. Are we going to just sit here and talk about affordability? Or are we going to deal with some of these things that really deal with affordability? Are we going to raise taxes? Let's talk about raising taxes in New York State, which is a huge mistake. So again, I think as we look at the new year, John, it's going to be about affordability. But I think the legislature and the governor have to get real about what affordability really means.
It's out of control. The budget, I think, is out of control between the city and the state. It's $370 billion budget.
Well, you're absolutely right. And I'll give you a perfect example where it's actually hurting New Yorkers. So, there's this talk about universal child care, right? So, which universal child care would be great, right? But we shouldn't have to raise taxes to do universal child care. If we had done our budget the correct way in the first place, that should have come out of what we call the general fund for education. We should be able to pay for it. But we spend so much money over here and we spend so much money over there. Our budget has increased by $100 billion in the last 10 years. $100 billion. And for what? And we can't do universal child care because of it. And now they're talking about, we need to raise taxes to do universal child care.
Well, there's another problem that nobody knows about yet, or not too many people know about it yet, is all the food stamps. So what do they call it now? They call it
SNAP. Yeah.
SNAP.
The SNAP.
And the federal government has asked for information to make sure the money is going to legitimate sources. And Albany has refused to give it to the federal government. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I hope the problem is not as bad as what Minnesota is, $1 billion missing.
Yeah, but again, it goes back to what you talked about before. We have an out-of-control budget, right? So when it becomes important issues like making sure people who are less fortunate are given the ability to feed themselves and feed their families, we should have enough surplus that we can do these things, and we can do these things generously. But what we do is we spend it on a bunch of other things that make absolutely no sense. We waste money, and then we can't do things like make sure everybody's being fed, make sure that we have universal child care. It's like if I'm as an individual, it's like I'm constantly putting stuff down on my credit card and I'm not paying my bill. And then I wonder why I can't buy gifts for Christmas. And that's where we are with our state government, and that's what we got to fix, because we can't deal with affordability if we don't.
Paul Zuber, keep us informed, and thank you for everything. I mean, you have 3,000 members, so you have the pulse of the situation. And I'm not going to ask you how many want to leave.
Well, I will tell you that I got a call from one of them who was thinking about doing something in New York and North Carolina, and they shared with me the information they asked for in North Carolina as opposed to New York, and you can see why they're probably going to go to North Carolina. It's almost like, come, we want you, we love you, we want you to build here, we want you to create a job here. The New York application is like, we don't trust you, we think you're lying, yes. That sort of attitude, and that's why we're.
By the way, Florida is the same way. I can speak for that.
Yeah. Yep.
Thank you very much for coming on this Sunday morning, and let's stay in touch.
All right. Thank you, John.
You are listening to the Cats Roundtable. We'll be right back.
How do I do it all during the holidays? 4 words. Shipped same-day delivery. With Shipped, I can order groceries from Albertsons, decor from Michael's, even gifts for my furry friend from PetSmart. Plus, my personal shopper brings everything I need that same day. That makes it a breeze to decorate, get my shopping done, and make time for all the holiday parties. Do it all this holiday season with Shipped. Download the app or visit Shipped.com. That's SHIPT.com.
Hi, it's Eva Longoria, and let's be real. After 40, we should ask for more from our skincare. I swear by Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oreal Paris. With vitamin C, pro-retinol, and hyaluronic acid, it reduces my wrinkles, firms, and brightens. And it's not a procedure. It's just a hard-working moisturizer.
Revitalift Triple Power Moisturizer by L'Oreal Paris. Grab it today in fragrance-free or with SPF 30. Available at your local Walmart. Retirement isn't just about closing out your career. It's living the life you've always dreamed of. With New York Life, you get the financial guidance to make it real. Start today at NYL.com.
¿Hablas español?
Sprichst du Deutsch?
Kann du Norsk?
If you used Babbel, you would. Babbel's conversation-based techniques teaches you useful words and phrases to get you speaking quickly about the things you actually talk about in the real world, with lessons handcrafted by over 200 language experts and voiced by real native speakers. Babbel is like having a private tutor in your pocket. Start speaking with Babbel today. Get up to 55% off your Babbel subscription right now at babbel.com/Spotify. Spelled BABBEL.com/Spotify. Rules and restrictions may apply.
Welcome back to the Cats Roundtable. With us today is Steve Cates, also known as Dr. Sky. And, what interesting things do you have to say today?
Well, good morning, John. As we welcome the Hanukkah season, Christmas, and, of course, a new year, let's go back to some theories of what the Christmas star might have been. Not only from the book of Matthew, but what astronomers might think, and not in collision. We know three wise men, astrologers, John, as we know from the story, traveled from areas like Mesopotamia, maybe Iraq and Iran, and they were noticing something strange in the sky that led them in the direction of the birth of the newborn king. What might it have been? Well, the planets were easy objects to see, that is, John. And to the Jewish people, the sacred sign in the heavens was Aries. And we know that Jesus' birth was probably in the spring of the year. How do we know this? Because we go back to the time of the King Herod. We know when he lived. So, John, in quick summation, one theory was that the moon, the planet Jupiter, the moon eclipsed the planet Jupiter in the morning of April 17th, 6 B.C. That is one theory, John, that might have been what led the wise men to the birth of the newborn king, among many others. I also say it could have been a comet. But the problematic thing with comets, John, is this. Shakespeare's Julius Caesar, Calpurnia was the wife of Caesar, and she made an interesting statement. When beggars die, no comets are seen. The heavens blaze forth the death of princes. So in this case, the birth of the newborn king was obviously something to be joyous, so it probably wasn't a comet. It could have been an exploding supernova, or, John, the best theory of all, it simply was a miracle. How about that?
How about that? That always helps on Christmas time.
Absolutely. And here we go into outer space, not quite into aviation. The fastest airplane that we know of in America was the great Blackbird SR-71. Lockheed Martin and people at the Skunk Works at Lockheed built that plane, and my pleasure was knowing many of the pilots who flew it. But, John, there may be, nobody can confirm it, Lockheed Martin has probably built, we can't confirm it, the SR-72, an aircraft capable of Mach 6, and it uses two types of engine technology, a turbojet engine to get subsonic speed, and then how about this, a scramjet to go up to hypersonic speeds. The difference between the subsonic and the scramjet moving hypersonic is that in the scramjet, John, there's no moving parts. It just continues to push fuel, atmospheric air, oxygen, creating this amazing thrust. So we're probably out there. I would imagine that this type of aircraft is already around. What would you say?
I've heard it is around. So how fast do you think it is versus the SR-71?
I would say, John, 2 times maybe the speed, because the gentlemen that I knew who flew these, the A-12 and the SR-71, they were saying at max speed they were doing about Mach 3.1, which is incredible. So allegations are from designs and things of that nature. If you look at so many of the movies like that are out there, we see this possibility that these aircraft do exist, but that's, again, in the movies. So we have to think about this. Tom Cruise in Top Gun, the latest movie that he had, showed that airplane in its iteration. But we don't know for sure, John, but I would imagine with all the great technology and secrets out there, I would probably think, as a betting man, it's probably more a reality than a dream.
I agree. Now, when I used to fly to Concorde, and this is 40 years ago, in 1984, the average speed was 2.03, 2.04.
Boy, I wish I was able to have flown the Concorde. I've never talked to too many people who've done it. That must have been
No, I know. I didn't fly it. I was in it, and we used to make London in 3 hours and 7 minutes, 3 hours and 11 minutes at the most. It's unbelievable. It's within minutes. It's no delays. You just take off and you land because they always got priority.
Well, we end off with the mystery of the week, John. How about this? Amazing stories of female astronauts. And many people may not know this. The first woman in space was the Soviet Valentina Tereshkova. She spent 3 days in space in 1963, orbited the Earth 48 times, and she's the only woman even to date, John, that piloted a spacecraft alone. And when they packed her gear, they forgot to pack her toothbrush, but she found very serious ways to overcome that. First American was, of course, Sally Ride. And Dr. Peggy Whitson, John, this is amazing. The most time in space of any U.S. astronaut is a female, Dr. Peggy Whitson, 675 days. And there's only some 120 female astronauts since the beginning of history, opening up a great opportunity for a career path. This story is amazing. And finally,
the only thing I'm concerned about the amount of time in space, are they getting shielded enough from the excess radiation out there?
You know, John, that's a big question, and I have to say this way. That's a challenge that the bioscience side, the medical side, has to overcome because, seriously, on deep space missions like to Mars, the cosmic radiation is something that we have to be concerned with, and radiation in general. So I would hope that the space planners put that ahead of just sending people into a spam can, and I think they're working on that.
Understood.
But, John, if you look into the sky this weekend, a big meteor shower happens tonight. If you look into the northeast sky, right around 8, you'll see Jupiter there in the east, in the northeast. Right in that area, John, is the annual Geminid meteor shower. Could be good, and so much more. Privilege and honor to be behind the microphone with the Dr. Sky Experience over the weekend as we go into the mysteries of the universe and things that people probably don't know about, and we're so honored to be doing that here. Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Hanukkah.
God bless, and let's pray for miracles and peace on earth.
Absolutely, John. You said it best. Have a good Sunday.
You too. Tonight is the first night of Hanukkah, and with us today is Rabbi Potashnik, and represents a large part of the community. And Rabbi, tonight is Hanukkah. Every year I call upon you to explain Hanukkah to the average listener out there.
Well, anybody who listens to this station is not an average listener. They're a very sophisticated listener. And I thank you, John. You've been a good friend to me and to Reverend Bernard for a number of years, and we are most grateful. Hanukkah is a story of religious freedom. It's about people who stood up and said, we want to practice our religion as we practice it, not as someone else tells us to practice it. You know, in today's world, if I could draw a parallel, you have people who are saying you can be Jewish, but you can't be Zionist. That doesn't go. Hanukkah says you can be the Jew you want to be, and no one has the right to deter you from determining your religious practice.
So it's religious freedom.
Religious freedom, exactly. It's the Maccabees who stood up against the Syrians. And, you know, the Syrians did, interestingly, they impurified, they contaminated the oil. They didn't destroy the temple. They said, you can go to the temple, but it's our oil. We're going to tell you how to pray. And we said, no, that's not going to happen.
When did the Jewish religion become a religion? When did the Jewish people say, this is our tribe?
I would say it begins with the belief, ethical monotheism, belief in one God and belief in ethics and morals with Abraham. It's as simple as Abraham. It became more defined with Moses, with the commandments. And by the way, there are 613 commandments. Some people think there are only 10. There are 10 fundamentals, but out of the 10, you can also find many others. 613. For example,
I never
charity.
knew that.
Well, you're a practitioner. Giving charity is not in the 10 commandments. You're one of the most charitable people I know. So you're a follower of a commandment that means so much to so many. Loving your family beyond your parents. Loving your family, treating people with respect. Not necessarily mentioned in those 10 commandments, but one of the commandments. So there are 613. Every day there are certain commandments you have to fulfill.
And that is that's a lot of commandments.
Being Jewish is not easy. It's a full-time job, John. but I love it. My father used to say, it's hard to be a Jew, but it's good to be a Jew. And it means you're responsible to God, you're responsible for your people. One of the things you've taught many people, and I really admire you for, when you go to vote on behalf of your people. Vote for what's good for your people. You don't have to be ashamed. You know, what I think is good for the Jewish people, I feel is also good for the American people. You don't have to bifurcate. So you can stand up. You stand up as a proud member of the Greek community. I stand up as a proud member of the Jewish community. And there's no contradiction. You can be an American, you can be Greek, you can be Jewish, and they support one another.
Now, the other thing that a lot of people don't understand is the different sects of the Jewish religion. Now, and the fact that a lot of Jews don't like Israel. Can you tell us why?
I wish I had a good answer for you, but there are some people who I don't think appreciate the history of the Jewish people, especially young people. If all you do is get your information out of, TikTok or Instagram, the very, very brief messages that are conveyed, you don't know the story. The story of the history of Israel is a story that says we have a right to live in a Jewish homeland. And when people say, I don't believe in Zionists, what you're saying is you don't have a right to believe in your people having a country, but you believe in everybody else having a country. That's simply wrong. That's, to me, immoral. So we are Jews and we are Zionists, and I think to be a good Jew is to be a good Zionist.
This is Hanukkah, and Christmas is a week ahead.
The candle,
give
John.
us the
Yeah.
two
The candle,
relationships.
So candles play an important part of the celebrations. The candle has an interesting quality. I can take one candle and I can light other candles, and it doesn't diminish the integrity of that one candle. So I can light the candle for you, and I still have a candle, that burns brightly for my own. So you do a lot of good work for a lot of different causes, a lot of different charities, but you're still a proud American member of the Greek community, a Greek American, however you want to phrase it. It doesn't diminish who you are by helping other peoples. So Hanukkah and Christmas says, stand up for one another, bring some light. And when you look at the Hanukkah menorah, there's one light that's a little bit higher than all the others. It brings light to the others. If you can bring light to other people, love to other people, you stand a little bit higher.
Well, Rabbi Potashnik, I want to thank you for coming on this Sunday morning, and happy holiday tonight. And
well, you're going to be lighting a menorah, aren't you, John?
On December 18th.
Bring light to all.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
The Cats Roundtable.
With us today is John Cherritt. Like every Sunday morning, how are the markets doing? Give us the report for last week.
Thank you, John. Good morning. Well, there was a stock rout on Thursday, and it was caused by the software company Oracle. Now, you know Oracle because it was founded by Larry Ellison, and Larry Ellison's son, David, is the guy behind Paramount, CBS, Skydance. And Oracle also is the company that has all the TikTok data in America on its servers in Texas. So that's why you know the name. But on Thursday, it hit the markets badly because its revenue fell well short of Wall Street expectations. There was a gloomy forecast, and it is spending an awful lot on AI, CapEx, capital expenditure. Wall Street didn't like that. Oracle shares down 15% when the news came out, and it was down about 11% on Thursday as well, and it dragged down the big tech names, including NVIDIA, which was down 1.5% on Thursday. Now, the story that I mentioned just now about David Ellison and the company Skydance, CBS, and Paramount, it's important again, because remember last week I told you that Netflix and Warner Discovery were getting together in a $72 billion deal. Well, hold on a minute. We've got to put the brakes on that, because Paramount, CBS, Skydance, and David Ellison have basically filed a hostile bid for the company this week, saying they don't like the sales practices over at Warner Discovery. And then President Trump weighed in as well and said any sale of Warner Discovery to Netflix must include CNN and HBO. Now, Netflix doesn't want CNN. You can't really blame them in many ways. But Paramount will buy absolutely everything. So right now, the scales have tipped again, this time in favor of the company run by David Ellison, Paramount, CBS, Skydance. There's a long way to go. This Netflix-Warner deal, or whoever comes up to the fore will take at least a year, if not 14 months. Elsewhere last week, the Fed cut rates by 25 basis points. Elon Musk said he wouldn't do Doge ever again. And Cisco Systems, we must give them a nod because the company from California that makes the bits that drive the internet had a record close for the first time in 25 years this week just gone. So well done to Cisco. In crypto, market structure bill, hoping for a Christmas markup now seems unlikely. And John, in the week ahead, we get earnings from Nike, FedEx, and Micron. John.
Well, thank you so much, and have a great weekend. It's only a couple more weeks for Christmas, and God bless America.
A couple more weeks until Dow 50,000.
Absolutely, before December 31.
Thanks, John.
Thank you for being with us for the Cats Roundtable Local Edition, the #1 show on Sunday mornings in New York. Keep listening to us for the Cats Roundtable National Edition between 9 o'clock and 10 o'clock. So we'll be back to you in a few minutes after the news.
Looking for financial insights you can trust?
How do you protect yourself as an investor? What's the strategy?
I think it's really simple. I think you just want to be diversified in your portfolio.
The Payne family brings real-world experience to every conversation.
Well, I think that's the problem right now is, right, a lot of people that are close to retirement, they're taking so much risks. And if we do get a big sell-off, it could derail their retirement.
Listen to the Payne Points of Wealth on the Red Apple Podcast Network.